Right, so we're starting financial maths, but before we can do much of the financial side of things, we have to learn about percentages, fractions, and decimals because we need to have a convert between them so we can do our financial questions later on. Okay, so fractions, percentages, and decimals can be converted into one another. They express the same kinds of quantities, and we use these percentages for many different things in our daily life, especially financial matters and profits. Some examples of loans are loans, credit cards, profits, and discounts. To change a decimal or a fraction into a percentage, you will multiply by 100. To convert a percentage to a fraction, you divide by 100. And to convert a percentage to a decimal, you also divide by 100. Now, unless you want to memorize those little sentences, I have a little diagram that can help you do that. So if you have a percentage, so it's my percentage sign, and over here we're going to have either a fraction or a decimal. Fractions and decimals are pretty much the same thing. The only thing you need to do to convert between those two things is press the SD button on your calculator. Okay, so otherwise there's nothing else that you have to time the divide by. Just pressing the SD button on the calculator. But if you want to go from a percentage to either one of those, okay, so just pointing to the fraction, either one of those, you will divide by 100. If you want to go from a fraction or a decimal to a percentage, you're going to times by 100. Okay, so that's a good little diagram to make sure it's on your study sheet. So here we have a conversion table, and the numbers that are in here are probably ones of quite a few of them might be ones that you will memorize eventually or sometime down the track. But let's use our calculators to help us. The first one's already done for us. If we are going to go from the fraction to the decimal, okay, to go from that first column to the second one, we are going to have to press the SD button on our calculator. These two things here, fraction and decimal. Okay, so let's type in, using your calculator, a half. So we go 1/2. You have to press the equals button first, but then you press the SD and then you get the 0.5. That's one that you probably knew though, right? But still we're practicing with the calculator. So 0.5. To change it into a percentage, anyone want to have a 100. So going across here, we're going to times by 100. So again, let's keep that in our calculator. Let's go times 100, and that's 50%, which I hope makes sense because half of 50%. Let's do the next one. 30%, sorry, not 30%, a third. It's 1/3. How am I going to change it into a decimal? What am I going to press? SSD, that's right. That's a recurring decimal, 0.3. I'm going to put a dot above it to say that those threes will just keep repeating. And now change it into a percentage by, timesing by 100. If you don't like the mixed numeral, press Shift SD and then change it into a mixed numeral. We don't want to see improper fraction. So that's 33 1/3%. See if you can do the quarter. How'd you go? So quarter is 0.25 and 25%. Did you do the 1/5 as well? Type in 1/5. What do you get as a decimal? 0.2, and then times it by 100 is 20%. Good. Okay, type in the 1/10. What is that as a decimal? It will be 10%, but decimal first. 0 point. The 1/10. 0.1. Which makes, times that by 100, gets 10%. What about 1/20? Good. And what's that as a percent? Yeah, very good, Riley. Well done. And 1/50? Which is how many percent? Very good. And lucky last, 1/100? 0.1%. Okay. Now, probably it would be good to know the half, the quarter, probably 1/10 at least, to be one that you'd be pretty familiar in your head straight away. But you always have that little diagram to help you convert anything. All right. Let's go on to the actual proper examples. So it says, question 1, rewrite the percentages as fractions, but it says A, 17/25 as a percentage. This is a, so what did you do? Yeah, to change the fraction to a percentage, you're going to times it by 100 and then put it in your calculator. 17/25 times by 100, there's the 68%. Okay, whereas part B says this is 8.5%. How am I going to take that into fraction? Divide it by 100. So we're going to put a little divide by 100 at the end of that. But that's not right, is it? Because it says I want a fraction. If I put that in and it gives me a decimal, press the SD. Excellent. So we get the 17/200. Okay, on to the next page. Do you want to write that down? Question 2, converting between percentages and decimals this time. So we want to write 0.55 as a percentage. What do I need to do? I should draw that diagram up on the board, shouldn't I? So we are going to times by 100. You type that in. What is it? 55%. Good. Next one, we want 25% as a decimal. 2% to a decimal. Divide by 100. So we type in 25 and we divide it by 100 and make sure it's a decimal, which it is this time. Otherwise, we would press the SD button. So 0.25. Question 3. Writing a quantity as a percentage, and it says in the brackets that they must have the same units. So I have one of these in cents, so 50 cents, and $2.50. If I'm going to be comparing those two quantities, I can't do it while they have different units. So I have to choose, and I'm going to put them both in cents or both in dollars. Big. Both in dollars. You could be decimals. You can, it doesn't actually matter which way you go. I would normally choose to go with unit, percent is smaller. The only reason I would do that though is because it avoids, it's more likely to avoid deadlines. You get your percent. Okay, so it was $2.50, how many cents? 500, it's 100 cents in a dollar. So that is 250 cents. So if I'm using the 50 cents and the 250 cents, it wants me to make it a percentage. So if I'm making something a percentage, I'm not going to times by 100, but I need to give a decimal to start with. I'm going to make it a fraction. Take these two amounts and write them as a fraction. I'm going to put the 50 on the top and I'm going to put the 250 on the bottom, and then to make it a percentage, I'm going to times it by 100. Okay, expressing the first quantity as a percentage of the second one. All right, let's type that in. 50 over 250, and then we times 100 is 20%. Okay, let's try that again. And this one happens all the time whenever you do a test. You might get a 4, and when a teacher marks a test, we usually write it on your top of your paper as a fraction, right? So we say you got 23 out of 30. It's a fraction. But if I want to make it a percentage, it's it by 100. Okay, so type that in your calculator. I'm going to press Shift SD to make it a mixed numeral. So it is 76 2/3. Or as a decimal, that would be 76.6666 repeater percent. Okay, part C. Write 5 boys out of 11 students as a percentage. What should I do first? That's right, make it a fraction. 5 out of 11 are boys. Now how am I going to make it a percentage? No, that will only change between fractions and decimals. How do I change it to a percentage? Times by 100. So 5 over 11 times 100. Shift SD for the mixed numeral. I get 45 5/11%. So pick some nasty numbers in there, but that's okay. All right, I think it is time for you to try some over here. 2A.